Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. The first week of the Premier League has already gone by, and I'm going to start doing a weekly video where I predict how the game week's going to go. I didn't want to do the first week because I wanted to kind of get a feel for how the teams were going to do, and I was going to start on this week. So first of all, we're going to go with the United and Brighton game coming up. I think United were unlucky not to come up with more than just one goal in the first game against Fulham. I think they were the better team for the most part. There were some chances that Fulham had, but they were pretty comfortable for the most part. Brighton, on the other hand, completely demolished Everton. It was because of a red card to Ashley Young at some point in the game, but for the last couple of seasons, Brighton have had the upper hand in the fixtures against United. That was until the last game where United managed to win 2-0, but I don't think that's going to be it this time. I think it'll be a high-scoring game, but it will end in a draw. I'm predicting 2-2. The second game we have is Spurs versus Everton. Spurs didn't convince me too much in the first game, and seemed devastated when he saw Jamie Vardy pull up an equalizer, but it is what it is. Spurs weren't able to capitalize on what they were doing, and they just weren't being that creative. But that could have been largely due to being away, and Leicester were probably a little ambitious being their first game back in the Premier League. But I do think Spurs will be able to beat Everton, though. Everton were even worse last week than I expected them to be, and they're going to be without Ashley Young for a while due to the red card. But Everton's defense just didn't look solid. They were completely decimated by Brighton, and I think it'll be the same against Spurs, but I do think Spurs will struggle a bit more due to the fact that Everton will be most likely parking the bus, trying to do a low block for the majority of the game, but I think Spurs will be able to break it, and then they'll end up winning 1-0. Next game is Crystal Palace against West Ham. I do think that this will be an interesting game. These are both teams that I hyped up a lot during my Premier League predictions. I did have Crystal Palace coming in 10th, and I had West Ham coming in 8th. But so far, based on just the first game week, my predictions aren't looking too hot, but I think they will pick up, and I think a lot of teams are just kind of still in that preseason feel. West Ham were up against a tough opposition in Aston Villa, and Crystal Palace got pretty much outplayed. Brentford scored all the goals, including the own goal, but I do think that Crystal Palace will be able to pick it up this week, and I think West Ham will as well, but I'm predicting a 1-1 draw. Next game is Southampton versus Forest. I think this is going to be a snooze fest. I don't think there's going to be that many goals in it. I think both teams are very weak. I have both teams relegating. I'm probably not going to watch this game, so I'm predicting a 0-0 draw, and that's all I really have to say about it. Next game is Fulham versus Leicester. I do think that Fulham were pretty competent last week against United. I do think Leicester were doing pretty good against Spurs for the most part last weekend too. But I do give the edge to Fulham. I think I saw a little bit more in Fulham, and I just think that Fulham is going to have a little bit more. They're going to be a little bit more of a cohesive system. Lukic looked good. He looked like he was doing solid in Paulina's place. Smith Rowe was a little bit under the radar last weekend, but I think he might have something to say this weekend. I just don't think that Leicester's going to have enough to stop Fulham at home, so I'm predicting a 2-1 win to Fulham. This is going to be the easiest game to predict for this weekend, and it's City versus Ipswich. I think Ipswich did pretty good against Liverpool, especially in the first half, but they just weren't able to cope for the rest of the second half, and I think it's not going to be any different against City, although I do think City's going to be dominating from the very beginning. But I think I do give Ipswich a chance to score one goal, but that's about it. I think they did well, but they won't be able to handle the best team in the Premier League. I'm predicting a 4-1 win. Villa versus Arsenal. Now I might have an upset. I have Aston Villa winning at home. I think that Villa did good against West Ham. They were able to clutch it at the very final minutes of the game. And I wasn't too impressed with Arsenal, to be honest, against Wolves. Wolves didn't look completely out the game the whole time. Arsenal didn't really look like they shifted out of third gear. They were kind of cruising along. They were a little nonchalant about it, but I think Villa's going to be a completely different story. Villa's going to be at home. Villa has been Arsenal's bogey team for the last season, and I think they'll continue to do so. I'm predicting a Villa win, 2-1. Bournemouth against Newcastle is going to be... I think it's going to be cagey. I don't think there'll be too much in it. I think it's going to end up being a draw, and it's going to be a low-scoring one probably. Newcastle just didn't really impress me last weekend. That red card by Shaw was completely ridiculous. I don't know what he was thinking. It was completely avoidable, and now they're going to suffer without him this game. And that's why I have Newcastle struggling a bit defensively because they're losing, in my opinion, the better center back in the pairing. And then Bournemouth is playing at home. I think they'll be able to get that energy from the home fans, and they'll manage to get a draw against Newcastle, and I think it'll be 1-1. Now I have another upset for this game, and I have Wolves against Chelsea. I think Wolves, they were doing pretty well against Arsenal, and they were playing away from home. So I think Wolves at home against the Chelsea that seems to be completely struggling. They were pretty much outplayed by City. Yeah, they had a higher XG, but when you have Nico Jackson up front, I don't think you're going to be scoring much. I don't think there's much opportunity for them to score. And I think Wolves will be able to combat against Chelsea's system pretty well. I think Chelsea are just going to struggle. They've been all over the place recently. They're having problems off the pitch. Maresca seems to be just saying whatever he wants. Sterling, that ridiculous claim that he had last weekend, there's no reason to be doing that. It reminds me of like the whole Jadon Sancho situation. I just think Wolves will be able to win at home, and I have them winning 2-1. And finally, the last game is Liverpool against Brentford. Liverpool against Brentford is one of those games where you just kind of see the easy win for Liverpool. Liverpool seem to be gelling really well, not just through preseason, but even in the first game. They look pretty sharp. They look good. Ipswich did give it to them for the first half, but after the halftime break, Liverpool just kicked it into gear, and they just saw the rest of the game out. They won 2-0. If Jota starts, that makes two sharpshooters, him and Salah. And I think it's just going to be typical Liverpool. I think Salah will get us a goal. Jota might get a goal. And Darwin, Gapco, one of them might throw in a goal as well. Brentford have a good team. They're just not going to be able to cope with Liverpool at home. Anytime you're going away to Anfield, it's just a tough game, and I just don't think Brentford are going to have enough to win it. I think they'll probably end up winning 3-1. Well, guys, that's it for this week. Thanks for listening. Hope you liked it. Comment on what you think of my predictions. If you think I'm completely wrong, let me know. If you agree with something I said, let me know as well. And I'll see you guys next time.